Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD 1111 .NET Framework with Web Databases class, I've been doing a series of video presentations that are based off of the textbook that will be used for the AWD 1111 class in the fall 2019 semester. That book is shown on screen is ProASP.NET MVC 5 and A-Press Text by Mr. Adam Freeman. I'm working my way through Chapter 22 of 27, and I'm on the bottom of page 632 using metadata for labels. By default, the label, label for model, and editor for model helpers use the name of the properties as the content for the labels they generate. The author says, for example, if I render a label like this, it'll come like this. So in other words, birth date will be one word. And the author mentions on the top then of page 633, he says, of course, the names given to properties are often not suitable to display to the user. To that end, we can apply the display name attribute from the system.component.dataAnnotations namespace, passing in the value that we want for the name property. So we're going to go back to our person.cs file, but first we're going to add these two using statements. And now if we did not add these, we'd be getting error messages, and if we did, we could click that little light bulb on the end and we could put them in that way as well. But when you look at a person ID, doesn't look very good. So we could change that one. All right, for example, first name, last name, basically just about everything in here. All right. So let's come in, grab what's shown here, grab the entire thing up to approved. I guess up to roll. All right. So when the label helpers render the label element for the birth date property, for example, all right, rather than displaying birth date as one word, it should now display it as two words. Okay. Again, you don't have to do this, but I like to break up every one of these fields. I think it makes it much easier as you're iterating your way through this to see exactly what's happening. The helpers also recognize the display name attribute, which again is found in the system.component model namespace. This attribute has the advantage of being able to apply to classes, which allows the programmer to use the HTML.labelForModel helper. All right, now that we've applied this attribute, we will see the results as shown on page 634 in the book. So it should look much nicer, much more professional look. All right, we could have put name, just first space name, etc. So there's a lot of different ways, and you know this, that this stuff could have been done. So let's run it again. Oh, gave me errors, so let's check on those. Wow. Okay. I got rid of some of it. And now it's saying person does not exist in here. That's interesting. Helpers, helper methods, models, person. Well, I'm wondering, I have no idea, but let's try to comment that out. I might be going from bad to worse here because I'm still getting error messages. So let's see. Nope. That isn't it. I didn't like removing that anyway, so. But that gives me more errors. So, type person may not be used as a type argument. Huh. Well, this is not great news, but I'm going to keep going on, and sometimes these errors, I don't think in this case, but sometimes these errors have a way of working themselves out. So I'm going to do a file, save all right here, and I'm just going to continue on. So for now, let's get rid of the error messages. We want to apply the data type attribute to the person.cs file. And for birth date, right there. After this, we want to put in here data type data type dot date, and we're specifying there that we are indeed using a date field. All right. The data type attribute takes a value from the data type enumeration as a parameter. In the example, we've specified the date type, which causes the templated helpers to render the value without a time component. Now, we're not going to see that because we still have errors, but when you look here on page 635, you see that the time part is now left. It says the change is more pronounced when the application is viewed using a web browser that has better support for the input types. So in other words, it'll show you a date picker, but nothing there for time. So it'll look more professional. Table 22-4 on the middle of page 635 here describes the most useful values of the data type enumeration. The effect of these values depends on the type of property they're associated with and the helper being used. Makes sense? For example, the multi-line text will lead those helpers that create editors for properties to create an HTML text area element, but it will be ignored by the display helpers. Okay? Let's jump down to the bottom. Using metadata to select a display template. As their name suggests, templated helpers use display templates to generate HTML. The template that's used is based on the property being processed and the kind of helper being used. The author says you can use the hint property to specify what to render, as shown on the next page, where for first name, in the person.cs HTML file, that's the person.cs file, I believe. All right. Where the author put that, UI hint. I think that's a mistake that's in the book. In the listing, we specified multi-line text template, which renders a text area for that. Table 22.5, which is on the bottom of page 636, shows the built-in templates. this isn't continued on the next page. The author does give you a cautionary note on the bottom here of page 637. Care must be taken when using the UI hint attribute. You will receive an exception if you select the template that cannot generate the type of the property you have applied it to. For example, applying a Boolean template to a string property. The object template is a special case. If the template used by the scaffolding helpers to generate HTML for a view model object, this template examines each of the properties of the object and selects the most suitable template for the property type. It takes metadata such as UI hint and data type into account. All right. Applying metadata to a buddy class on the bottom of 637 and going on. It is not always possible to apply metadata to an entity model class. This is usually the case when the model classes are generated automatically, like sometimes with ORM tools such as Entity Framework. Any changes applied to automatically generated classes and applying attributes will be lost the next time these classes are updated or regenerated. So, how do you fix that? Well, the author mentions here that the solution of this problem is to ensure that the model class is defined as partial and create a second partial class with the metadata. Listing 2216 shows the person class modified such that it could have been generated automatically. There is no metadata, and the class is defined as partial. Here we told the MVC framework about this buddy class through the metadata attribute, which takes the type of buddy class as its argument. All right. So the author says that he established a new folder under models called metadata, where he created this new thing in here. So let's do that. Under models, let's come in and let's add a new folder that's called metadata. Oops. There's the new folder. Metadata. Here we're going to create a new person metadata.cs class. All right, the code is shown on the bottom of 638 and the top of 639. And the author mentions here, that the buddy class needs to contain properties to which the metadata applies. The author says you do not have to replicate all of the properties of the person class, for example. All right? Once again, I'm at 14.5 minutes. I think I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to pick it up on page 639, the Working with Complex Properties, and my hope is that'll be the last lecture then for Chapter 22. I should be back with that fairly shortly.